What is the greatest fuck it, I'll do it myself in history? Juan Pujol Garcia was a Spaniard who created his own counterintelligence operation for the Allies during WW2. Initially, he approached British and American intelligence to offer them his services, but both countries rebuffed him. Undeterred, Garcia created a fictional persona as a pro-fascist Spanish official and got himself recruited by the Nazis, who directed him to travel to Britain to recruit agents. Instead, Garcia created a network of fictitious agents and sub-agents using publicly available information like newspapers and travel brochures. It was at this point that he again contacted Allied intelligence, and he was finally recruited. Garcia continued his work throughout the war, and for the same operation, he received both a knighthood from the British and the Iron Cross from Nazi Germany. The Nazis never realized that he was a double agent. Nobody ever expects the Spanish in deception. I see what you did there. Yes. In the lead up to Overlord, he confirmed reports that the Allied attack would come from Dover and wouldn't attack Normandy. Then, at the last moment, he confirmed that the Allies in fact would attack Normandy. But it was too late for the Nazis to act on it. So afterwards the Nazis still trusted him, as they would point to him and say he was the only one who predicted the Normandy invasion. It was technical issues, as always, that meant the data got to us late. And supposedly this was one of the most important pieces of deception leading up to Overlord. In 1947, a guy named Thor Heyerdahl was trying to prove his theory that the Polynesian islands were settled by people from South America, not Asia. Nobody believed him, because it was thought that crossing such a large ocean with the technology they had back then was impossible. So he decides to build a boat using only the tools and materials available at the time these migrations took place. And then he sailed that boat across the Pacific Ocean, nearly dying in the process, but ultimately making it to the Polynesian islands. For context, the voyage was 4,340 miles, nearly 7,000 kilometers, and took 101 days. The original raft can be seen at the awesome Kon-Tiki Museum in Oslo, Norway. How TF do you guys know so many things? Heyerdahl is basically a Norwegian national treasure. I moved to the US from Norway when I was 13 and lived there for 2 years. Once in history class we had to choose between a list of subjects to write an essay on, and I found the Kon-Tiki expedition on that list. I think that's the only essay I've ever gotten an A+ on. I had a few of his books already, but not the Kon-Tiki one, and I couldn't find it in the school or public library. So I wrote to the Kon-Tiki Museum for some information. They forwarded the email to Thor Heyerdahl, and he personally responded to me, answering all my questions and giving me personal quotes to use in my essay. Then he sent me copies of his books that I was missing through snail mail, all from his personal library, all signed and personalized to me. Maurice Heilmann invented over 40 vaccines during his career in the pharmaceutical industry. In 1963, his oldest daughter caught the mumps. He cultured a sample from her, developed a vaccine, and injected it into his younger daughter. That vaccine is still in use and has saved millions of lives. In total, it's estimated that his work has saved 118 million lives globally. *MOOPS. That's not moops, you jerk. It's Moors. The card says moops. Jon Snow, not that one, the father of epidemiology. No one believed him that the cholera outbreak in what is now Soho was because of a contaminated water pump. He broke it. They arrested him for vandalism and held him until the outbreak suddenly ended. Jon Snow's entire life story is a series of fuck it, I'll do it myself moments. From his mother getting the money to send him to school, to basically the entirety of his work against cholera, because all his life it was always you know nothing, Jon Snow. That made me laugh, but then I realized Jon Snow spent most of the show trying desperately to convince people of an invisible threat and being persecuted because of it. He was also a pioneer when it came to anesthetics. Queen Victoria permitted him to put her under for the birth of 2 of her children. I visited his memorial in Brompton Cemetery a few years ago. He's right round the corner from Emmeline Pankhurst's grave. Both sites had fresh flowers on them. Oh, I learned all about that in that awesome animated history channel on YouTube, the one where the heads aren't attached to the necks. It's called the Broad Street Pump, right? It's amazing how much ridicule and obstruction he has to endure while trying to save the lives of thousands. It's a great watch. I highly recommend it. In fact, I think I'll go watch it again. It's like 3 little episodes. Otis invented pretty much what we consider the modern elevator. Nobody was convinced it was safe, so he hoisted himself up extremely high and had somebody cut the cable with an axe to prove how confident he was that the elevator was safe regardless of almost worst case scenarios. Otis UK are based in Reading. When they answer the phone they say hello, Otis Reading. In the UK telecoms giant Siemens has an HQ in Staines. Do's what they say when they answer the phones. I used to work for the semiconductor group in Siemens. We were fairly elite. We were filled with pride when the chairman referred to us as the cream of Siemens. Siemens has, or had, branch in Cumming, Georgia. Considering these other stories, I think they know what they are doing. Perhaps when no one believed Barry Marshall that H. pylori can cause stomach ulcers, so he thought screw it, I'll test it on myself, and ended up getting the Nobel Prize. Bless him. I have an ulcer, and because of him, we have a better understanding of how to treat it. Used to be one of the main killers of otherwise healthy young men. My ex-mill got this, and tried to cure it with apple cider vinegar. She ultimately got ulcers, which she ignored, until it became stage 4 cancer. I was shocked how quickly she went. Don't worry, it's not that uncommon. I got one when I was 20 from H. pylori, ate some shrooms, was the only one that got sick. My doctor at the time told me about 25% of people have the bacteria in their gut, it just has to be aggravated somehow. I have issues with pills, so the 8-horse pills they give you was hell for me, but it cleared up almost immediately. Hope you get well. James Clerk Maxwell was idolized by Einstein as being the father of modern physics. Not only did he formulate the classical theory of electromagnetic radiation, but just for shits and giggles he calculated exactly what Saturn's rings were made from using pure mathematics. It wasn't until Voyager 1 and 2 passed by and took photos in the early 80s did we get confirmation that Maxwell was right. He then calculated how to take a color photograph in 1855. This was then achieved in 1861 and is recognized as the first ever color photograph. Don't forget his advances in statistical mechanics. People like that just blow me away. Same with Pascal and Euler. Just brains that are different than most everyone else's. The ones that get me are the ancients, to be honest. Greeks, Chinese, Persians, whoever. They figured out a lot of stuff pretty much by just bullshitting with each other until it made sense. They weren't always right, of course, but for people that didn't really have much of a grasp of the scientific method, they were right a lot more than I should expect. No doubt. Hero of Alexandria invented the automatic door and vending machine like machine 2000 years ago. Crazy. Probably the time Nando Parado and Roberto Canessa decided they couldn't wait around any longer and legged it for 10 days across the Andes with no warm clothes, climbing gear, or food except some scraps of their dead friends stuffed into a sock. They finally found someone out in the middle of nowhere, Sergio Catalan, who rode horseback all night and then took a bus to get some help. The mountain climbers had come from the wreckage of a crashed plane that everyone had been looking for over 2 MOs. They needed help for the other survivors who were injured and starving. They saved 14 of their friends. There's a book written about it by one of the survivors himself, Miracle in the Andes. 72 days on the mountain and mile-long trek home by Nando Parado. I never watched the movie, but the book still gets me to this day. It is one of the most disturbing depictions of humans' ability to survive even under the deadliest circumstances. A really humbling read, reminding us of our own fragility and how terrible fleeting everything truly is. In 1888, Alman Brown Strowger, an undertaker, noticed he was losing a lot of business to the other undertaker in town. He found out that the other undertaker's wife was a telephone operator, and when she intercepted people asking to be connected to Strowger's funeral home, the operator would route the call to her husband's funeral home instead. 3 years later, Strowger patented the automatic teller exchange, a system which allowed telephone users to make calls without the need for human operators, single-handedly destroying an entire workforce. Imagine being so pissed off you don't just get someone fired, but remove their job from existence entirely. It's gotta be Amo Koivunen. He was a Finnish soldier in the Second World War. When the Finns were trying to reclaim land from the Soviets, he got separated from his unit mid-war in the middle of nowhere. He was the one tasked to carry the drugs they held in case of injury or tiredness, one of which was Pervitin, which was literal meth in a tablet form, instead of just taking 1 or 2. He downed the whole bottle and went on a weeks-long methed up rampage. He got hit by a landmine, evaded Soviet soldiers, caught a bird, and ate it raw, all while on skis. He finally made it back to finish lines where on arrival, he weighed only 90 pounds or so, and had a heart rate of 200 beats per minute. He ended up living for another 45 years. I fucking love it whenever this story gets mentioned. It's so crazy as to be unbelievable, but it's true. A movie needs to be made about this guy. Crank 3, Amo. We didn't even write a script this time. We just gave Jason Statham a bunch of meth and dropped him in Russia. A man who was a tractor mechanic company owner made a good chunk of money and bought a Ferrari. He felt that the car wasn't as good as it could be, and it wasn't very comfortable, so he brought his complaints all the way to Enzo Ferrari, the owner of the company. Enzo insulted the man, saying a mere tractor mechanic didn't know how to make a sports car. That sparked a rivalry that lasts to this day. That man was Ferruccio Lamborghini. Not a very old story. Manchi, or the mountain man, lived in a very remote village of India whose route to nearby was blocked a mountain, and hence villagers had to climb it every time. And they had to do that daily to get essential supplies. During one of these trips, his wife fell down the mountain. He loved her outlet. He tried first to persuade the gov to do a mountain tunnel project there, but to vain. So he went on alone to break the entire mountain with just an axe. He did that for 10 plus years and finally succeeded. There is a Bollywood movie on him too. Title, Manchi, the Mountain Man. I feel like he went through a lot of axes lol. That's pretty impressive though. Wife DIES asterisk asterisk PLAYSIRLMINECRAFT asterisk asterisk SAVESVILLAGE asterisk.